In the weeks leading up to the January 6th Capitol riot, allies of then-President Trump were holed up in a D.C. command center, looking for a way to overturn his 2020 election defeat. According to the Washington Post, a group of loyalists began meeting at the historic Willard Hotel, a block from the White House, in December. The mission was seemingly to find a way to somehow block President-elect Joe Biden from taking office. They discussed strategies, including pressuring Republicans like then Vice President Pence and finding constitutional loopholes to keep Mr. Trump in power. Washington Post investigative reporter Jon Swaine joins me now with more on his reporting. Jon, welcome. Thanks very much for being with us. So tell us more about what happened behind the scenes at the Willard Hotel and at the White House. Who was involved?
So at the Willard Hotel, Donald Trump's attorney, Rudolph Giuliani, was there. His attorney and legal advisor, Professor John Eastman, was there. Stephen Bannon, who, as people may know, is the former White House chief strategist, was occasionally there in the days up to January 6th. And other advisors on the Trump campaign and people around the president were in and out as well. And as you say, they were kind of waging this campaign to pressure state lawmakers in the battleground states, to pressure members of the conservative media, to get the message across to Vice President Pence that they wanted Pence to delay his count of the Electoral College vote on January 6th, or potentially to throw it back to the battleground states so that alternate electors could be selected who would choose Donald Trump over Joe Biden.
Well, how did state legislatures become a factor in attempts to block the results of the 2020 election?
They became a factor because in many cases, the state constitutions and state laws give the power to the state legislatures to select their electoral college votes. And typically, that is done based on the popular vote in that state. Sometimes that is dictated by law, sometimes not. And people around Donald Trump after the election, they began pressuring lawmakers in those states where the vote was close, where Joe Biden had maybe just beaten President Trump. They began pressuring them to look into what they thought were allegations of fraud and irregularities. There's no evidence of that. And to select electors for Donald Trump instead of those for Joe Biden, who would have been selected down to the popular vote.
Well, tell us about the pressure facing Vice President Pence when he arrived on Capitol Hill to certify the election results. What did he know?
He knew that people around President Trump were incredibly passionate about pressuring him to stop what he was planning to do, to not go ahead and certify the election as he intended, as he did do so eventually. And I think, the pressure was building on him throughout that day. We saw that the people gathered outside, the people who stormed the Capitol, some of them were chanting things about Vice President Pence, some of them were threatening him with physical harm. He was sort of whisked to safety by security inside the Capitol that day. So it was an incredibly dramatic day for him, and a day when people on his side, in his party, and around the president to whom he was vice president were sort of angry with him and pressuring him to sort of bend to their will.
Well, the House voted last week to pursue contempt of Congress charges against Steve Bannon after he defied a subpoena. What do we know about the level of cooperation from other potential witnesses?
We know that the committee is trying to talk to anyone who knew about this command center at the Willard. They're trying to talk to people that were there. They're trying to talk to people who may have been in the White House, who were communicating with people there. And, Professor John Eastman told us he has not yet been contacted, but I guess he expects to be. Others who were at the Willard, like Boris Epstein, another campaign advisor, expect to be as well. And I think the committee just really wants to get to the bottom of the extent to which there was coordination. What kind of communication was there with the president? We know Steve Bannon talked to President Trump on January 5th. Seemingly from the Willard. Were there more calls? Were there calls on January 6th itself, or in the final hours of January 5th in the preparation for the rally outside? And definitely the committee is going to want to know the extent to which things were being coordinated with the White House and whether they were coordinated with organizers of the rally and potentially even people who stormed the Capitol.
A lot of open questions still. Jon Swaine. Jon, thanks very much for sharing your reporting with us. We appreciate it.
Thanks.